What will your storyline be in 2018 now that the holiday rush is over? LegalZoom can help you make this a memorable year before all the distractions take hold. Make this the year you finally get serious about launching and running your business. Rest a little easier knowing your family's future is squared away with the right estate plan. LegalZoom has been helping people like you take care of their dreams and responsibilities for more than 16 years. They're not a law firm, but they have the resources to keep you on the right path, including advice from their network of independent attorneys, all at your fingertips. Whether you want to take your business to the next level or take control of your family's future with an estate plan, LegalZoom plugs right into your life so you can take care of the things that matter most. Get off to a strong start in 2018 at LegalZoom.com today and get special savings when you enter Golic in the promo box at checkout. LegalZoom, where life meets legal.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
What will your storyline be in 2018 now that the holiday rush is over? LegalZoom can help you make this a memorable year before all the distractions take hold. Make this the year you finally get serious about launching and running your business. Rest a little easier knowing your family's future is squared away with the right estate plan. LegalZoom has been helping people like you take care of their dreams and responsibilities for more than 16 years. They're not a law firm, but they have the resources to keep you on the right path, including advice from their network of independent attorneys, all at your fingertips. Whether you want to take your business to the next level or take control of your family's future with an estate plan, LegalZoom plugs right into your life so you can take care of the things that matter most. Get off to a strong start in 2018 at LegalZoom.com today and get special savings when you enter Golic in the promo box at checkout. LegalZoom, where life meets legal.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Well, good Monday morning, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Golic and Wingo. Glad you are getting up for your week with us. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And I think, guys, it's safe to say that it's good that it's a holiday for a lot of people in Minnesota, as it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, because I think this would be the most least productive work day in the history of the state of Minnesota.
When it was everything was on the line, it was the number 2 offense that did it, and we're sitting there. Okay, what do you want to talk about? Let's do this. And we're like, wait, what? What just happened? I mean, it was unbelievable.
Well, I mean, for those of you that maybe don't know what happened.
Yeah,
I mean,
somehow.
In this game, you thought Minnesota, what we thought was going to be the best game and the best matchup, Minnesota's winning this game 17-0, basically throughout.
It was a dud in the first half. It was a complete dud.
It was an absolute dud, and the Vikings are up in this game, up 17, until all of a sudden, there's Drew Brees, and it's 21-20. The one thing I thought about when the Vikings were going down to score to go up 20 to go up before they lost that lead was don't score too quick.
Yeah.
Don't score too. And I even tweeted, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, but you need to score and burn the clock. They scored and they didn't burn the clock. And Drew Brees had that time. So in case, again, you didn't know, Drew Brees and the Saints go up 21-20. There's 25 seconds left and Minnesota has the ball on their own 25-yard line. Lo and behold, on a third down with a few seconds left, and it's tough for them to get a play off, and if they stay in bounds, they have no timeouts. The game is over. Stephon Diggs makes a catch by the sideline. Marcus Williams, inexplicably, though, you'll hear him explain it, put his head down and went for the tackle and completely whiffed. Diggs just spun around and ran the rest of the 61 yards, and that, they say, was history for the Vikings win.
To Trey's point, sitting around there with the result seemingly already in the bag, I am drafting a text message to Kyle Rudolph, my former roommate, the Vikings tight end,
Hey,
getting ready to congratulate him on a great season. Yep. It's a bummer you guys won't be hosting it, but look forward to seeing you in Minnesota for the Super Bowl still. And then that play pops up and you immediately toss your phone and realize, all right, the dream is still alive for Minnesota. I think the first team to even go into conference championship weekend with a chance to host a home Super Bowl.
They are the fourth team that has entered a postseason with the possibility of playing a Super Bowl on their home stadium. And you're right, none of the other previous three had ever gotten through the divisional round. So, look, there are a lot of firsts in this game between Minnesota and New Orleans. Okay, that was also the first time in NFL postseason history that a touchdown has been scored in the fourth quarter with no time left on the clock. And this is one of those crazy stats that popped up in the first half that holds now, which just makes no sense in the world. The Saints, going into that game in the Drew Brees, Sean Payton era, were 1-34 when falling behind by 17 points or more at any point in the game. And the Vikings had won 23 straight games when they had a 17-point lead or more at any time in the game. And so both of those things look like, they're gone. And then on the craziest of plays, they both hold. So the Saints under Drew Brees and Sean Payton are now 1-35 when they have a 17-point deficit to overcome. And the Vikings, unbelievably, have now won 24 straight when they have a 17-point lead. And the beauty of a game like this or a play like that is perspective is everything, right? Because it is absolute joy, adulation, euphoria in Minnesota, and it is absolute devastation, despair, and misery in New Orleans. And the way this game is called will dictate both of those things. Let's do happy time first.
Yes.
This is the call of the Vikings home radio network, Paul Allen on KFAN.
Three receivers right, Thielen left. Marshawn Lattimore 12 yards from Adam. Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side, caught by Diggs. Stay up! Oh my God! 30! No 10! Touchdown! Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis miracle! Stephon Diggs and the Minnesota Vikings have walked on the New Orleans Saints. It's a 61-yard Minneapolis miracle.
So that was the call on the Vikings home call.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't know who the the color guy is. All I know that this was his.
A lot of analysis.
That was sort of the way he went with it. Unbelievable. So that is the Vikings side of it, and here now is the other side of the coin. This is Jim Henderson calling the final play of the game on the Saints home radio network, WWL.
Here's Keenan, dropping, looking, throwing near sideline, and it's caught by Stephon Diggs. He's going to take it inside the 15, 10, 5, touchdown on the final play of this game. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I don't even know what to say on this because it was so unexpected. It wasn't a Hail Mary because it wasn't the just air the ball out to the end zone because you couldn't reach it. They weren't far enough.
Yep.
And they had started with 25 seconds and had one timeout to see if they could move the ball down the field to get a field goal range, and they weren't able to do that. And you saw when they were showing the all-22 on this, you saw how New Orleans was defensing it. They would have a guy short and a guy long by the out of bounds, saying basically, catch the ball in the middle of the field all you want. We're not letting you get out of bounds. So, of course, that play was to the sideline. You saw Diggs, as soon as he caught it, he even said, I expected to get hit. So you saw him spin to the outside to try and get out of bounds. And then he realized nobody hit him. And there was Marcus Williams there, the rookie. Again, these four, the draft picks that we keep talking about, especially the DBs, Lattimore and Williams, the rookies, the year they had, he just whiffed it. You know, I heard Jimmy Johnson on Fox afterwards say that he ducked his head because he was trying to miss him and not interfere. He said the worst thing you can do is have pass interference because that's the only thing that can give the offense another play. And Williams even said, I got there a little early, but he said, I got to make a play on the ball. He said, instead of ducking my shoulder, I needed to make a play on the ball or just let him catch the ball and make the tackle and the game's over. He says, I have to know the situation. And he stood up and he wore the hat. He said, he didn't do it correctly. And the most surprised person in the world had to be Diggs. Because, you're anticipating getting hit. So for him to stay up was impressive.
Yes.
Because he spun out of that thing and he put his hand down on the ground, but he never got touched. So, untouched then into the end zone, but just stunning. I mean, some are going to call it a lucky play. Some are going to call it, whatever. I don't know what, you're going to call. You're going to say, we meant to do that? They didn't mean to do that. They meant to catch the ball and hope that Diggs could get out of bounds before the clock ran out to see if they could get a closer play or a field goal.
Well, I mean, you look at every football game, it's basically just a collection of waiting around for someone to make a mistake on any given play. For as well orchestrated and planned out as all of it is, it's predicated on someone somewhere along the way either making one individually great play that can open something up or doing something catastrophically bad on the other side that allows this to happen. And instead what you get is a surprising moment with an all-time great helmet toss at the end for a guy that was as surprised as Stephon Diggs was. He owned that moment and basked in him and Case Keenum, really, the guys that were a part of that moment. Case, for as unexpected as this all was, for Stephon Diggs to be posing for every Instagram picture for the future of his life over on the sideline, stood up on the chair, and then for Case Keenum to be leading the crowd in the skull clapping chant that they stole from the Iceland soccer team during that run at the end of that game. Before that final extra point that we heard happy and sad from both of those crowds, what was the cry out like in the desert as the Vikings, giving 5.5, score that final touchdown and then trot out for the kneel down on the extra point?
Well, I mean, look, that rule, by the way, is ridiculous.
Yeah,
it is insane because in overtime, if you score the game-winning touchdown, you don't have to kick the extra point. There's no need for it. So why we feel the need, if you score in regulation on the last play when there's no time left, which was the case here, to trot out people for the extra point makes no sense to me. But you're right. Daniel Morstead, who injured his ribs on the first punt of the game for the Saints, is now trying to line up as the nose tackle on this game. So mercifully, I think the Vikings decided not to, unless of course you had the 5.5 points.
Oh
then
my gosh.
Then it's a much bigger deal, and we can get into that.
Yeah,
and the
we'll get into that
for that later.
There's a whole article on Vegas on this one that we'll get into.
We'll do that deep dive.
Yes, we will.
I promise you we will. But the sheer look on Case Keenum's face when after he had made the throw and realized, wait, that worked? Did that really happen? I mean, he sort of did that. It was unbelievable. And then I got to give some props to our Josina Anderson, who got the Stephon Diggs and did a great interview with him, and then she got Everson Griffin. And now Everson Griffin, if you saw this on the TV side, this went on for about 2.5 to 3 minutes. And this is the condensed version, but basically what we're going to play for you is exactly what he did. He just kept doing it because he had no idea how to sort of sum up what just happened.
It's unbelievable. I'm happy. I was sad. Now, wow. I got, oh my goodness, 14 seconds ago, for our last play, third down. That's unbelievable. You can't draw that up. You can't wish that it just happened.
That went on and on and on.
I mean, because we've seen last plays. We've seen Hail Marys get completed when going to the end zone for the win, everything's on it. Here, this was so unexpected because you could expect a catch, but you weren't expecting the guy to be able to stay in bounds and the clock was going to run out, or could he get out of bounds? That's what you were expecting, the roll out of bounds, and would he do it in time, and would they be close enough for a field goal? Would it be a Hail Mary? All these things we've seen before. We knew exactly what Minnesota was trying to do, and we knew exactly what New Orleans was trying to prevent. And then you saw that, and you were just like, wow, just when you think you've seen it all, because I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that kind of a play when you have the game won. Understand, New Orleans was losing this game 17-0, didn't score their first point until a minute and something and change to go in the third quarter. In the third quarter, they were out of this game. And then there were 4 lead changes, in the last 4 minutes of this game? It was ridiculous. And then to have it end that way, I mean, I can't even fathom that plane ride home for New Orleans.
This is the win probability chart game. This is the one where you come in the next morning and the win probability chart looks like the beginning of the movie San Andreas, where it just steady, steady, steady. What the hell just happened?
Yeah. By the way, we always trot out the win probability chart when this unbelievable thing happens. It seems like we trot it out a lot, so I don't have a lot of faith in the win probability chart.
I'm going to say with this, though. On that last snap, I don't know if you guys have seen it. What do you think the win probability percentage was for the Vikings before that last snap?
0.0001.
Wrong.
4%.
2.8%.
Wow.
That seems very high.
It does seem high, doesn't it?
Again, win chill and win probability. Get them out. Get them out. That makes no sense to me. How can you say you had a 2.8% chance, 61 yards away, no timeouts?
Well, I mean, look, where he caught the ball, where was you know what, I don't even know.
He was right around the 30.
Okay, but where was the clock? If he spun and got out of bounds.
He could have gotten out of bounds in about 2 or 3
seconds.
There was
so they could have kicked the field goal.
Yes.
30 would have been like a, 47, 48-yard field goal.
Yes, and Kai Forbath had just nailed a 53-yarder.
That's probably why the percentage was as high as 2.8% because of that. That's exactly what you thought was going to happen. Catch on the sideline, spin out of bounds, and have a shot for a field goal.
Yeah, it ends up being like win probability in the playoffs where teams will have a more bloated win probability if they've got a first-round bye because you've just got one fewer game to play. So if you've got one more play that you could possibly execute, maybe that ups it some, but it is still a situation where this particular outcome, as you mentioned and as Trey mentioned before, a first of its kind, first in a lot of different ways down the stretch. The first game with 3 lead changes in the final 2 minutes of the game, all these different things that let you know that after the game we saw in the morning that we thought was going to be the best version of our NFL Sunday, Mike Zimmer and company also said, hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly right. We'll get into the Jacksonville thing with Pittsburgh a little bit later on the show, but the final play is, without question, what everybody's talking about. Brought to you by ADT. Considering home security, consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. Visit ADT.com to learn more. And clearly, we could have used a little more security on the back end of that Saints defense. Again, Marcus Williams has been one of the reasons that the Saints defense has turned around this year. Look, historically horrible. The last 3 years, they were dead last in almost every category imaginable. Well, Dennis Allen comes over as the defensive coordinator. They do a great job in the draft. Again, the first 4 draft picks for the Saints this year. Ryan Ramczyk, who started and played every snap this season. And then you had Marshawn Lattimore, who made it to the Pro Bowl, an unbelievable player. Alvin Kamara, I mean, who has been, he's been a spark plug and sort of helped with Mark Ingram change the dynamic offensively. And then Marcus Williams, the kid out of Utah. And it just was a decision that he made that he'll have to live with for the rest of his life. And here is Marcus Williams after the game trying to describe what was going through his mind and what he was trying to accomplish on that final play.
Man, it was just my play to make. Ball was in the air. I didn't go attack it. Came down, made a great play. And, that's on me. I just got to be that guy and go up and get the ball, as a safety back there, you got to be the eraser, and that was my job. The last play of the game, you got to go do it, and you got to save the game.
I'll give the kid a lot of credit.
Yes.
He stood up there and owned it. And I thought Sean Payton, by the way, after the game at his press conference, did a really great job in protecting the player. I mean, when he's up there, he's got to realize not only are my dreams for myself and my team shattered, and I've got to figure out how to do this again. But there's that's a young kid I'm trying to protect. And if you listen to what Sean Payton had to say as well after the game, I think he went out of his way to try and say, hey, you know what? He put himself in a position. We had faith in him and all that. We don't want this play to ruin what could be a really good career for this kid.
And listen, as you said, we just heard he stood up and he owned it. I mean, you don't want to make that mistake, but he stood up and he wore the hat on what he should have done. Now, he did have that interception in the third quarter, that duck that Case Keenum threw up there, which I thought Case threw up another one that Thielen made an unbelievable catch for later in the game. But yeah, Williams had that pick early on. He stood up and he owned it. Even when he did that, I don't know why it just didn't register to me that Diggs was still going to be able to go all the way. I thought even when he didn't get hit, for some reason I thought he was just going to instinctively go out of bounds.
Yeah.
But, kudos to him for recognizing the situation and saying, wait a minute, ain't nobody in front of me. I'm just going to spin and keep going. It was pretty impressive.
It was really impressive, and I think if you're Marcus Williams, the feeling is doubly there because obviously you lost a game that was tremendously impactful, but now you wake up this morning. If you're the Saints, you have a lot of questions. Obviously, Drew Brees comes out after the fact and has to answer the questions about wanting to be back in 18, but he's a free agent going into this offseason, so you understand the most certain thing about the Saints franchise, and we've talked glowingly about all of those draft picks that you guys just mentioned, and the way this Saints team has looked different this year with a reestablished ground game and a defense that's actually competent for once. But it's all built on the bedrock of Drew Brees and that offense. And for, what seems to have been a regular occurrence for a while, but now very really so, that's in question going forward for a guy who today just turned 39 years old.
He's already said his plan is to be back, but you're right. He's a free agent. Now, I can't imagine that he'd want to go somewhere else. And I think he wants to finish his career with the Saints, who revived him after he was, had that shoulder injury and was let go by San Diego. And again, we talked about this last week with the whole Nick Saban thing, but it was Miami that didn't clear him with that shoulder. Right. That's how he got to New Orleans and put this thing together. Look, one last thing here is we'll talk about this throughout the morning. We'll hear more reaction from Case Keenum and some other people about this, but I want to check back in Minneapolis at October 15th.
Oh, you're not, are you?
I'm just
Is
curious.
that where you're going?
I'm just curious to see how many babies will be born on October 15th that might have the name Case or Stefan.
So there was
it's all said.
There was a lot of skull going on and for different reasons.
There was probably a lot of happy times. Yeah. We should check back with nurseries in Minneapolis in 9 months from now. Just see how many little baby cases and they did that Super Bowl commercial a couple of years ago. The Super Bowl babies.
Yeah, Denver. Yeah,
I think that we might have a few.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck is here in studio to give us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, Tim, I've been trying to share this story with everybody, and you'll help me because you were there with me. Myself, Tim, Jeff Saturday, and Ryan Clark last night getting set to go on and do NFL Primetime at 8 o'clock right after the game is going to be over. So we had watched the entire game go back and forth. So there's 25 seconds left when the Vikings get the ball, and we're all talking, okay, what do you want to do? Hey, when push came to shove, it was the number 2 offense that bested the number 1 defense down the stretch. How do you want to handle this? And then suddenly all that stuff we were talking about, Tim, just went out the window.
I think we were talking about leading the show with the Jags upset of the Steelers. I think it was like, all right, we'll get ready to do this Jaguars highlight. And then as the play happens, I think we all kind of got up from where we were sitting down. We're watching this play happen on this massive, monitor. It's like a TV screen that's, 3 times the size of all of us combined. And we all kind of like walk towards the screen. Like, did that really just happen? It was incredible. It was always, Ryan Clark's talking about, like, I have chills. Like you almost felt like you were there. And, I don't know. It's one of those things, like when it happens to you as a player, I think it just like changes, like it's almost like a life-changing experience. And that's why the Everson Griffin sound is so remarkable.
So take me from the offense side. Defensive side, I've talked about it.
Yep.
If you see the play, you see 2 corners up but playing to the outside, and then Marcus Williams back the safety. And on the snap, Miami or Minnesota has to run these sideline routes. So you see the first two guys just start going toward the sideline, and then Williams is deep. And there's 2 routes that way, and then there's Diggs running behind those 2 corners, and that's Marcus Williams' guy. So Marcus Williams, as he said, I got to make the play. I either make a play on the ball or I got to make the tackle inbound. So they all knew what they had to do. They just didn't execute it. What's from the offensive side? What's being talked about at that point?
Well, you have to get to the sideline. So it's the same stuff the defense knows as well because of the clock. And so you're really just running different levels to the sideline. So Kyle Rudolph's in the flat. Jarris Wright is basically running a deep out. Right. And then Stephon Diggs is running the corner route. Well, the touchdown happened on 3rd and 10. On 1st and 10, they ran the exact same route. He tried to hit Jarris Wright, on the deep out, and his feet got tangled up coming out of the break. And so I don't know if that play on 1st down impacted Ken Crawley and kind of what he was anticipating because, Marcus Williams blows his assignment and doesn't make the tackle or play on the football as he said.
Right.
But Ken Crawley doesn't make it any easier either because he basically is playing at the same depth of Jarris Wright. you gladly give that up. I don't know why Ken Crawley is playing so shallow. So, look, I don't know if they were impacted by seeing it on first down and reacted to it, but listen, it's a great play by the Vikings. I don't want to take that away from them. I mean, it's just a total bust.
Total bust.
Defense,
well, to me, and take me through the receiver's mentality, they want to get out of bounds. To me, it was something about Diggs understanding where he was and the last man just missed him, because I thought he was going to spin and just run out of bounds, because that's what you told, get out of bounds, get out of bounds, get out of bounds. All of a sudden, he spun and kept going. I thought he would just instinctively go out of bounds.
You know what helps Stephon Diggs? He runs a terrible route. He absolutely runs an absolute horrible corner route. And I think the reason he does is I think he's got to be gassed. They hit him on an in-cut on first down to get the drive going.
Right.
They run that exact play on the next down, which is a high, deep angle corner route.
Right.
They run another play down the field on second down. He's got to run back and then run that same play again. So when you watch him come out of his corner route, he's kind of slow getting out of his route, which means he's actually kind of far from the sideline, which is why Marcus Williams would have been able to tackle him inbounds. He's so tired that he doesn't actually run a very good route.
So will he get a minus in the film session on the route running?
I think you forgive that one.
I was about to say, Tim, I love you, but I think you have a hard sell. Hey, Stephon, tell us about the worst route you've ever run.
Well, listen,
I think that's going to go over pretty well for him.
He's told.
You're right.
What Golick is saying. He's told to catch the ball and then fall out. You would fall out of bounds. He's not able to because he doesn't come out of his break hard. And what I'm saying, in his defense, he's got to be gassed.
Yeah.
He's got to be absolutely gassed.
By the way, this is why when Tim Hasselbeck joins us and we do NFL Primetime together, we have two segments, Positim and Negatim. Yes. He's being Negatim right now. You're raining on the parade.
Hey, better offensive play or worse defensive play?
Oh, I think worse defensive play.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a corner route. I mean, it's a corner route you complete.
I feel very justified.
He feels justified that we're bringing somebody down. But this is what he does.
You just agreed with me.
Let's dive. Let's do that for a second.
Yeah.
It's a corner route. I mean, Case Keenum threw a corner route. Okay, you throw them all the time. I mean, Marcus Williams has got to make that play.
By the way, when everyone knows that you basically
have to do it. He threw it right where everybody knew he'd have to throw it. I would definitely put it more on defense. And again, Marcus Williams, for the rookie, stood up after the game and he wore the hat of responsibility for it and knew he played it wrong. But yeah, I put more blame on the defense. Like, I'm not shocked it was a completion, but he should have been tackled in bounds right there.
Look, it was just, I mean, Ryan Clark's face. I mean, he got up out of his chair and just walked around like, what happened? I mean, it's like he didn't know how to register what he had just seen.
Ryan didn't know how to register. Case Keenum didn't know how to register.
Nobody did.
I think I did. And he's like,
did that just happen?
Yeah,
it was
exactly
unbelievable.
Right.
And you mentioned the word Millie, and we call this the Hail Millie. I want to get into this a little deeper here. Yeah. The Vikings Millie is a fan of the Vikings who will turn 100 years old this year. I'm not sure exactly when her date is, but they had this great video of them, some of her, I think her grandchildren or great-grandchildren, I don't know, reading the letter that the Vikings, she had never been to a Vikings game before, and they gave her the tickets, and she was at that game. She had never been there, and we brought this up last night. You know, the term Hail Mary comes from a playoff game that the Vikings lost to the Dallas Cowboys in 1975, outdoors at Old Metropolitan Stadium with very little time left on the clock. Roger Staubach goes back and throws one down there for Drew Pearson. Now, it looks, if you see the replay, in all the world like Drew pushed off the secondary guy for the Vikings, Nate Wright. And by the way, whenever the Cowboys play in Minnesota, they hang a banner to this day that says Drew pushed Nate. So they remember this in Minnesota. And he went in for the score, and the Cowboys went on to win 21-17, went to the Super Bowl that year and lost to the Steelers by that same score, 21-17. And so that's where the Hail Mary came from.
Right.
So that happened in Minnesota. It feels like all these years later, they've finally gotten rid of that, and the play with Millie in attendance and what just happened with Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs should now be the Hail Millie. So we've replaced the Hail Mary with the Hail Millie in Minnesota lore.
Any chance Millie is going to go to Philly?
She had, I don't know that.
Millie.
You. I mean, anybody,
Hey, Millie.
Yeah, but because it is supposed, now, you would hope someone would put her in one of the suites.
Yes.
But it is supposed, are you looking at the forecast right now? 53 and cloudy. So it's not going to be.
I think she might be offended by saying that she has to go in the suites.
No,
remember when Bud
she's
Grant
not-
came out of the coin toss in the short sleeve shirt? Millie lives in Minnesota. My guess is that she's tougher than that.
Let me just say, she should be offered the suite.
fair.
If she doesn't want to go in there, that's fine, but it's supposed to be 53 and counting. She's got to be at that game.
Well, I don't know if she's going to be at that game, but I can promise you she's going to be at the next game because Roger Goodell, the commissioner, was in the stands last night in Minneapolis. He found Millie. She got 2 Super Bowl tickets.
Wow.
So
she's cool.
She's going to the Super Bowl one way or the other, although I think one way would be a lot better for Millie than the other if she can have her Vikings play and see her Vikings play.
Think about this. If the Vikings don't make it, what she can get for those 2 tickets.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Just stop that now. And Millie, if you're looking them up, talk to me. Stick around. We got a lot more to talk to you about, okay? What are we to make of the Falcons' play calling in the final minutes against the Eagles? We have a disagreement about that, and we'll get into that with you. Did you have a problem with them rolling out basically on that final play?
I would have a problem if they didn't have another play paired with it. And what I mean by that is the reason you're rolling out is you're expecting all-out pressure, which if you're facing Jim Schwartz defense inside the 5 on a gotta-have-it situation – you're expecting all-out blitz. You're expecting cover zero, all-out blitz, and one of the ways you deal with it is move the pocket, and then you're dealing with inside leverage. That's the type of coverage you're going to get. And so really they had an outbreaking route to Julio. So based on that, I don't have a problem with it, but I do think you have to pair it with something else in the event that that's not the look you're getting pre-snap.
And when your receiver falls down and or is pushed down, either way you want to look at it. And when I say that, I don't mean in any way, shape, or form I would have thrown a flag there at all. To physical play, you're rolling out, you're going to your main guy. I'm with you, though. You'd like to have another option there. But I have no problem, even though Julio in the red zone has not been money this year for Atlanta. That's still, they went to him out of the 4 plays. They went to him 3 times. So I'm fine with that. I personally am. I
agree with you.
2 of them were one-on-one plays. You got the fade, it's one-on-one, and the last play is one-on-one. Why would I don't know why anybody would have a problem with that.
What's Matt Ryan making a year? About $18 million or so, somewhere in the $20 million range. What's Julio making a year? About that? Okay.
No, look, I'm with you.
You just don't like the play call.
I guess here's what I'm looking at. Like at some point, you have to be like, on first down against Darby, like make the play. Like we have $40 million trying to connect on this play. Make the play on the slant. Make the play. And look, even when it doesn't go the way you have it designed on the last play, again, like make the play.
Okay, so I have no problem going to Julio Jones. Obviously,
right.
The shuffle pass to Teron Ward, I think we can all say was a disaster. Okay, do you think there might have been better plays that they could have called to get him in a better matchup?
Yes, if you know that you're getting coverage, and I think that's the challenge here is we sit back and look at it and we say, look, before that snap, if you were to say to me, okay, defensive coordinator is Jim Schwartz, it's a 4th down play in a gotta have it situation inside the 5-yard line. What's he doing? I will bet you if you polled every offensive coordinator in the league, they would say he's heating you up.
Coming after you.
He's going to heat you up. He's going to come after you. He's going to try to get a hit on your quarterback, and he's going to make it be a catch and throw opportunity for your quarterback. And you need a guy to make a play on Julio. That is literally, I think, almost the unanimous decision you would get. And so I think in some ways you've got to give a lot of credit to Jim Schwartz because he called a defense that I don't think anybody was expecting to see.
Right.
And I think look, it's hard for defense coordinators, especially that are aggressive by nature, to not be tempted to stick with the call that everybody thinks that they're going to go with.
Right. I know you got to go to Sports Center, but I want to get this, and Trey and I will talk more about it a little later. In the Pittsburgh game, four fourth downs. Mm-hmm. So you have the 4th and 11 touchdown, the 4th and 5 touchdown, 2 4th and 1s. You get a sweep and you get a play action, throw down the middle. What's with the quarterback sneak? And can you go to it as a quarterback if you want to go to it?
100% you can go to it. Ben can go to it at any point. You get up there, you have some type of
signal
call,
that shows
or
that,
some type of call that activates it. Hey, Peter, or Dart, whatever your call is for it. you just go to it. So if Ben sees it and likes it,
are you surprised? Even if they're loaded there,
listen,
not,
I wasn't crazy about the toss crack play, the first fourth down,
wide against the speed defense.
Yeah, I didn't like that. It is a great play by Ramsey. The other one is a packaged play for sure.
Yeah.
And they, Ben eventually gets to it. Look, if Ben would have thrown a touchdown pass on that play, you think you would have heard Ben talk about how much he likes sneaks? I mean, no one can sell you out like Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, you got to be kidding me with that. Like, hey, I'm for it. Like, give me a break. I mean, honestly,
we have that sound. We'll play for it in a little bit. Yeah,
we'll get to that in a little bit, and some numbers there that will surprise you about why they didn't do it. But real quickly, I know you got to go.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get this out there. My favorite thing on Saturday was what Bill Belichick did late in that game. They're up 35-7. 4 minutes to play. Eric Decker catches the ball inbounds. He throws the challenge flag to think that he did it. That is the most Bill Belichick thing of all time, is it not? No off days.
He almost knew how Bill Belichick it was. If you could show the video of how he threw it, he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do this.
I'm going to have a challenge.
Hey, I'm that guy. Here I go."
It was great. I mean, be who you are. You know, and he was at that moment. I know you got to sprint to Sports Center. Get out of here.
Thanks, see you guys.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast. What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
As we continue, Tim Hasselback is with us. All right, Tim, help us out, because we did not only primetime last night, we did Saturday night, or technically Sunday morning at midnight. On the Saturday games, Golic had no problem with the rollout play on 4th and 2 against the Eagles for Matt Ryan and trying to get it to Julio Jones. Did you have a problem with them rolling out basically on that final play?
I would have a problem if they didn't have another play paired with it. And what I mean by that is the reason you're rolling out is you're expecting all-out pressure, which if you're facing Jim Schwartz defense inside the 5 on a gotta-have-it situation, you're expecting all-out blitz. You're expecting cover zero, all-out blitz, and one of the ways you deal with it is move the pocket, and then you're dealing with inside leverage. That's the type of coverage you're going to get. And so really they had an outbreaking route to Julio. So based on that, I don't have a problem with it. But I do think you have to pair it with something else in the event that that's not the look you're getting pre-snap.
And when your receiver falls down and or is pushed down, either way you want to look at it. And when I say that, I don't mean in any way, shape, or form I would have thrown a flag there at all. To physical play, you're rolling out, you're going to your main guy. I'm with you, though. You'd like to have another option there. But I have no problem, even though Julio in the red zone has not been money this year for Atlanta. That's still, I mean, they went to him out of the 4 plays. They went to him 3 times. So I'm fine with that. I personally, I am. I mean,
I agree with you.
2 of them were one-on-one plays. You got the fade, it's one-on-one, and the last play is one-on-one. Why would I don't know why anybody would have a problem with that.
What's Matt Ryan making a year? About $18 million or so,
like
somewhere
that.
in the $20 million range. What's Julio making a year? About that? Okay.
No, look, I'm with you.
You just don't like the play call.
I guess here's what I'm looking at. Like, at some point, you have to be like, on first down against Darby, like, make the play. Like, we have $40 million trying to connect on this play. Make the play on the slant. Make the play. And look, even when it doesn't go the way you have it designed on the last play, again, like, make the play.
Okay, so I have no problem going to Julio Jones, obviously.
Right.
The shuffle pass to Teron Ward, I think we can all say, was a disaster. Okay. Do you think there might have been better plays that they could have called to get him in a better matchup?
Yes, if you know that you're getting coverage, and I think that's the challenge here as we sit back and look at it and we say, look, before that snap, if you were to say to me, okay, defensive coordinator is Jim Schwartz, it's a 4th down play in a gotta-have-it situation inside the 5-yard line. What's he doing? I will bet you if you polled every offensive coordinator in the league, they would say he's heating you up.
Coming after you.
He's going to heat you up. He's going to come after you. He's going to try to get a hit on your quarterback, and he's going to make it be a catch and throw opportunity for your quarterback. and you need a guy to make a play on Julio. I mean, that is literally, I think, almost the unanimous decision you would get. And so I think in some ways, you've got to give a lot of credit to Jim Schwartz because he called a defense that I don't think anybody was expecting to see. Right. And I think look, it's hard for defensive coordinators, especially that are aggressive by nature, to not be tempted to stick with the call that everybody thinks that they're going to go with.
Right. I know you got to go to Sports Center, but I want to get this, and Trey and I will talk more about it a little later. In the Pittsburgh game, four fourth downs. Mm-hmm. So you have the 4th and 11 touchdown, the 4th and 5 touchdown, 2 4th and 1s. You get a sweep and you get a play action, throw down the middle. What's with the quarterback sneak, and can you go to it as a quarterback if you want to go to it?
100% you can go to it. Ben can go to it at any point. You get up there, you have some type of
signal
call,
that shows
or
that,
some type of call that activates it. Hey, Peter, or dart, whatever your call is for it. You just go to it. So if Ben sees it and likes it,
are you surprised? Even if they're loaded there.
Listen, I wasn't crazy about the toss crack play. The
especially
first fourth
going
down
wide against the speed defense.
Yeah, I didn't like that. It is a great play by Ramsey. The other one is a packaged play for sure.
Yeah.
And they, Ben eventually gets to it. Look, if Ben would have thrown a touchdown pass on that play, you think you would have heard Ben talk about how much he likes sneaks? I mean, no one can sell you out like Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, you got to be kidding me with that. Like, I'm for it. Like, give me a break. I mean, honestly,
we have that sound. We'll play for it in a little bit. Yeah,
we'll get to that in a little bit, and some numbers there that will surprise you about why they didn't do it. But real quickly, I know you got to go. I just want to get this out there. My favorite thing on Saturday was what Bill Belichick did late in that game. They're up 35-7. 4 minutes to play. Eric Decker catches a ball inbounds. He throws the challenge flag to think that he did get. That is the most Bill Belichick thing of all time, is it not? No off days.
He almost knew how Bill Belichick it was. If you could show the video of how he threw it, he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do this.
I'm going to have a challenge.
I'm that guy. Here I go."
It was great.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
We're joined now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line by a man who had the pleasure of calling games for a lot of years with Keith Jackson after a stellar Hall of Fame career in the NFL, and that is Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback Bob Greasy. On the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performances to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Bob, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I know it must be a bittersweet moment for you. What was it like being in the booth with Keith Jackson all those years as someone who grew up listening to you guys and enjoying that experience? It had to be that much more fun to be a part of it.
Well, it was, and I always remember the first time. I retired in, I think it was 1981, and worked the first 5 years with NBC doing NFL games. And then ABC came to me and said, "We want you to come over and do college games on ABC." I said, "Well, I'm a pro player. I played 15 years. I broadcast 5 years in the NFL. I've been 20 years in the NFL. Why would I want to go and do college football games?" And they said, "Well, we want you to come over to ABC and work with Keith Jackson." I said, "Whoa, Nelly." I said, let me think about that one. So I started off with him, and it was a treat. The first game we did was at the University of Washington, and I never forget, we sat down to do the opening, and he actually said to me, he says, "Okay, lad, what do you want to do? How do you want to handle this?" And I said, No. You're the veteran here. You're the experience. You're the all-pro. I'm the rookie. We'll do what you want. I'll follow your lead. And from then on, it was just a piece of cake.
We all hear, obviously, the incredible calls and have heard the calls and have seen so much of it. How about take us to production meetings and how you guys dealt with it during the week and what some of the things you learned from him and the type of person he was away from what we saw on camera and what we heard?
Well, he was a real gentleman, a real nice man. He was he was very modest. He was a Marine. Before he grew up in the country in Georgia, and before he went to Washington State University to get his degree, he went to the Marines first, and then he went back to college. So he was always very nice, very courteous. Every Thursday night when we would get to the city where we were broadcasting, we would always have dinner, and people would come over and talk, and he would be just as, and this was after my career going. People would always come over and notice me in the past. But when he and I were sitting together, they all came over and they wanted to talk to Keith. And he was just, whether it was in the middle of the meal or after the meal, he was always very gracious and very courteous. And he loved what he was doing, and he knew that he was kind of the torchbearer for whatever sport, whatever company that he was working with. And he was just a true gentleman. It was really a pleasure to sit there and just watch how he treated the fans as they came by.
Bob Griese with us, Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback, but for many years also the partner in the broadcast booth for Keith Jackson, who passed away Friday night at the age of 89. And for so many of us, he was the voice of college football as we grew up and watched all those games on Saturday. I can still hear him saying Oklahoma, the way it just sort of rolled off his tongue in my head is whenever I think of Keith Jackson. But the thing that Bob made him so special, he was so genuine. I mean, he came up with the term, the granddaddy of them all for the Rose Bowl. He was the one that coined the phrase, the big house. It certainly seemed like everything that he shared with the viewers and the listeners was this sense of awe that he had about the sport itself.
Well, and I asked him sometimes, he would come up with these weird sayings that we all became to love, and like the big uglies and Whoa Nelly and all that. I said, Keith, where do these sayings of yours come from? He said, Grease, he says, when you grew up in the farmlands of Georgia, out in the sticks, he says they're in there, and they just somewhere along the way they're going to come out. And I'll never forget, we're doing the first SEC championship game, and I think it was Florida and Alabama. And Florida's behind. There's not much time left. They're inside the 15-yard line. They need a touchdown. They drop back to pass. Quarterback has to scramble to his left. Now he comes back and scrambles to his right. He pulls up. He's looking around, and he throws the ball in the back of the end zone to the receiver. The receiver drops the football wide open, and he drops the ball. And Keith is saying all this. And then when he stops and it's my turn to go, I said, Keith, I said, that receiver's got to make that play. Quarterback scrambled. He avoided tacklers. He scrambled back to the right side. He bought time. He found the guy back in the end zone, and he threw the ball, and the guy's got to make that play. Now, this was a night game. This was prime time, and it must have been 5 seconds goes by. He doesn't say anything. 10 seconds go by. He doesn't say anything. And he comes up and he finally says, if you're a lonely soul out on the highways of America, with only the coyotes howling, and you heard that comment, you know it came from a quarterback.
That is awesome.
You never knew what was coming out next.
And the quarterback we're talking to is Bob Griese, Hall of Famer, two-time Pro Bowl champ, NFL MVP in 1971. Was Keith... And obviously, all those years in pro ball, Hall of Famer, one of the greats, and you go into broadcasting, and you're broadcasting with Keith, who turns out to be one of the greats as well. But you were great with everything you did in your life. When you were working with him, is it something you could really appreciate while it was going on, or did you appreciate it more, like a lot of us do, when it's done and you look back on it?
Well, that's a good question, because it was a little of both. I appreciated him while I was working with him, and then after I retired and looked back, for the last 35 years that I've known Keith, we've been the best of friends. I was with the Dolphins the last couple of years, and we were playing first of all, the Rams in L.A. 2 years ago, and then this past year we played the Chargers in L.A., so I had the opportunity to have dinner with Keith and Terry Ann. And we kept a good relationship over the years. I was very fortunate in my life to be associated with two legends, Don Shula when I was playing, and then Keith Jackson when I retired and went into broadcasting.
Well, certainly you were, and for so many of us, a lot of our childhood and memories of watching college football were shaped by those sounds that we heard from Keith Jackson over the years. Bob, we appreciate you getting up this morning and sharing some of your memories with us of Keith. It means a lot to a lot of us that listened to him for all those years. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Bob.
Well, he was a great guy, and he was a good friend. We lost a good one.
Appreciate it, Bob. Thanks so much.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
We're delighted to be joined by ESPN.com senior writer Ramona Shelburne, who joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Okay, Ramona, we have the matchup tonight one more time. This time it's in Cleveland. Golden State is there. But with the way the Cleveland Cavaliers have played defense, Ramona, 2 out of their last 3 games giving up 127, what is the possibility that the number the Warriors could put on them tonight with the way they're playing?
I mean, right? Like I think we all kind of have this sense that this could get ugly if Cleveland plays the way it has been playing. But I'll tell you what, I came in yesterday and caught the Cavs just at their practice they had at the facility, and it was. Usually when you get back from a long road trip, the coach will say, you know what, guys, don't worry about it. We'll just see you on shoot around, right? But they played so poorly over that road trip, like they had to have a practice. And they seemed, it seemed like a different team. Like I think sometimes we underestimate how much being on the road, integrating a new player, all of these types of scenarios affect a team. And like the Cavs they're usually good for like 2 or 3 of these little stretches every year, right? Where they have an 8 or 9 game stretch where they just look awful and we all go into this mode of like, oh, are the Cavs done?
Yeah, but they've done this twice already this season.
Yeah, and it was at the beginning. Okay, so at the beginning of the season they were a little rough, and then they won like 18-19, and then they fell off again here. And I think some of this coincides with the first loss on Christmas, right? That this is what's kind of started the latest run. And then it's also about integrating Isaiah Thomas into this mix, where he said flat out yesterday he does not have his legs. He's not even close to being able to contribute the way he wants to. So now you have a new player who's going to play a pretty big role in the team, and you're integrating him and he's not there and he's not making shots. And I think you kind of say, okay, if this continues beyond today, right? Because you should be able to get up for today. You're at home. You just got, you've been home for a couple of nights here. You don't have the excuse of being on the road and road weary and all this, et cetera, et cetera. If they get blown out tonight, now you can worry, okay? But if they can find sort of the championship moxie, the idea that what they had in them before, then you look at the Cavs and say, okay, this is probably still going to be around 4 when we get to June.
Yeah, this does seem to be around that time of year. Last year at this time, LeBron was saying they need a playmaker, and, there were complaints going on. And to me, Ramona, though, the defense, we know their defensive efficiency, how bad they are. They flipped the switch a bit, certainly when the playoffs started, but they've always had kind of the offense. Is that more of a worry now because the offensive side is slipping at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. Yesterday we did this. We talked to Coach Ty Lue, and he goes, we just missed shots, right? Which is one of those coach speak answers, right? Like, I'm not really saying anything about why the offense is bad. We just missed shots. But I think in this case, he actually might be saying exactly what's going on. Like, they really missed a lot of shots. And Isaiah Thomas said, he goes, all of my shots are short right now because I don't have my legs. Like, and when you miss shots, then it changes your defense, right? Because the other team can get out and run, and you don't have the same it's transition defense as opposed to being able to get set in half-court defense. I think there's some of that going on there, and I think it's also when you reintegrate Isaiah Thomas, he's not the kind of guy who's going to play that system, right? Like, when Isaiah was out, just name me the Cavs point guard. Who would you say it was?
LeBron James.
Right. That's it, And so they don't have somebody who can really really be, who's the traditional point guard. LeBron's having to do everything. Isaiah is a point guard, sort of. Like, he's more of a scoring point guard. And he's the kind of guy who's going to score off pick and rolls, and he's going to score at isolation, but he doesn't run that free-flowing system that they were having success with earlier. So I think there's some of this is just reintegrating him. Some of it's just the road, they're missing shots. But the more concerning thing for me is the defense. They're 29th in defensive efficiency. And that's just inexcusable, right? Like, for a team that has championship aspirations, like, defense is a lot about effort. And if you can't find effort in this game, especially with what's at stake here, then that's when you begin to wonder.
Well, that's what makes this really interesting, Ramona. Ramona Shelburne with us, senior NBA writer with us for ESPN, because Ty Lue said it after one of the losses last week. I think it was after the Toronto loss. I can't remember which one. He mentioned the word, we need to get agendas, okay? And nobody else brought that up. He brought that up. We need to get rid of, if there are agendas on this team, we need to get rid of those. What do you think he was talking about?
I think he's talking about selfish play, right? Like, when you're going for your own stats versus playing that team ball game, right? And in the beginning of the year when their defense was awful, a lot of it was just that people hadn't made that commitment to team defense. Look, they got old guys on this team. This is the oldest team in the NBA. So you're not going to be able to defend one-on-one. This is about team defense. And I think when Ty says things about agendas, it means that people aren't buying into that, right? They're not necessarily committing to the work you have to do to defend as a team. And there's really no other way to defend the Golden State Warriors, right? Like, they're too good to try to defend them one-on-one, even if you were 5 years younger as a team, right? So I think that's what Ty's talking about. And, Ty's not one to mince words. Like, he when he says that, he knows people are going to hear it. And so he's talking, that's J.R. Smith, that's Dwayne Wade, that's Tristan Thompson, that's those role players that they need to really buy into what they're doing as a team, because, quite frankly, they're just not the same guys individually as they once were.
From the other side of it, Ramon, with Golden State, we've had Kevin Durant misses some games with a Ramona, sorry, with Kevin Durant and the calf that he has. That's not something that's been recurring to him. Steph Curry, it is with his ankles. Is there a concern with that in ankle and going forward, or with the trouble he's had in the past?
Yeah, I think there is, in a way. I talked to Steph about it for quite some time the other night in Milwaukee, and he really wanted to play in the game, and he goes, it's really frustrating because I've had so many ankle injuries, I can almost self-diagnose. Like, he doesn't need WebMD anymore. Like, he knows exactly where he is.
That's not what you want to hear if you're a Warriors fan.
Right? I mean, remember, earlier in his career, this is a guy who understands every little part of the ankle, right? He's like, I know when it's tendon, I know when it's bone, I know. And he said, he woke up that morning and he felt stiff and sore, and he knows it's a little weak, and so he didn't play. And he said, I really want to play. I was kind of begging Steve Kerr, but then Steve turned it around on him, and he said, if you were me, would you ask a player to play in the condition you're in? And Steph goes, I guess I can't, right? Like, it was that sort of guilty thing where you have to put yourself in the coach's shoes. And he played in Toronto, but he said afterwards that it was not, he's still not 100% on it. And I think the real concern is just that he's done the same ankle now twice, and with his history, he understands, it's weakened right now. Once you keep sprinting it, the ligaments are weakened. And so they don't want that to continue to reoccur. But I also, knowing the Warriors, if there's ever a day when he wakes up and it just doesn't feel right, he's just not going to play, because they are so all about June and playing deep into the playoffs that they're not. You could have a sniffle and they'd say, sit down, take your time.
Ramona Shelburne with us on Golic and Wingo. So we were talking about the Warriors, obviously the top of the Western Conference. Now let's move to a team that is nowhere near the top of the Western Conference, and that would be the L.A. Lakers. Look, there's been all sorts of talk about David Fizdale maybe in the coaching mix here, and then Jeannie Buss tweets out that picture of her with Luke Walton out there having a good time, showing support for the current head coach. What is the current status of the coaching situation in L.A. right now?
I mean, so Jeannie Buss has flat out said to me, Luke's not going anywhere. Okay. Like, that she is so obviously in his corner, and that's ownership speaking. But the reason why that those types of other stories have taken taken root, like the Fizdale story, that comes from outside the organization. And that comes because when you're quiet, right, when the chattering classes are, wondering why you haven't said anything, why Rick Carlisle's going to bat for your guy and Steve Kerr is going to bat for your guy, but no one in the organization is, it gets everybody else wondering. And some of this, I think, is on Magic Johnson, who, from what social media tells us, was in Hawaii this weekend. Some of this is on just the organizational decision or stance that they were not going to be seen as responding to LeVar because they don't feel like they need to. They've spoken to Luke. They've reassured him behind the scenes. He should need the public, attaboy when, it would really only be because LeVar Ball said something and they don't want to be seen as responding to him. And so it's a nice idea, but it's also 2018 where it's like you can control your own response to things, but you can't control what happens in the rest of the world. And so once the rest of the world started responding, where the NBA Coaches Association is putting out statements, and I know they were critical of our network and others in the media who give LeVar a platform, but really they were critical of the fact that Luke Walton would be any kind of hot seat. I don't know, it made people start talking and wondering whether or not the two guys, Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson, who were not the ones who hired Luke Walton, right? He was the holdover coach, whether he was really their guy. And I think that's where the Fizdale stuff comes from. I've never heard anyone in the organization say it, but I have heard people on the outside say it. And I don't think there's anything to it right now, just based on my own reporting and based on how strongly Jeannie Buss, the owner, has come out this way. And the other Buss kids, I know, Joey Buss and Jesse Buss, who also have roles in the organization, are very firmly behind Luke Walton. But because they didn't say anything, it allowed some of that oxygen to get in the room.
Yeah. So taken away from the idiocy of that situation, with Fizdale, because it is thought that he is a favorite of LeBron James. So going to that side of it, the behind the scenes thing that could go on,
sure,
where it has nothing to do with Luke Walton, but if there's a way to get LeBron to LA, and if he really likes Fizdale, would they make that change because of that? I think that's something that people think could be realistic.
Look, it's not hard to connect dots, right? Like Dave Fizdale coached LeBron in Miami. I think he was an assistant coach or associate head coach. I don't want to deprive him of a better title if he had that. But they were very close in Miami. When he got fired, LeBron tweeted out, what's happening? I need some answers here. It feels like my man was scapegoated, right? I mean, that's a pretty big show of support from the best player in the league to the head coach of Memphis, right? At the time. So it's not that hard to make that connection. But I think when you look at it, like it's so early in this process, guys. It's so early that, you gotta say, and I've covered a few of these LeBron free agencies. None of us really know what's going to happen with LeBron until the offseason, right? And he doesn't know because so much of this depends on how the Cavs finish, how the rest of the league finishes, whether things fall into place in free agency. And I think like that, would this be an possibility? I think it's so early to even ask it. I think it's so early to even ask that it's not fair to anyone involved, right? It's not fair to Luke involved, but it's not easy. It's not hard to connect those dots.
Well, it certainly doesn't seem like it's that hard, but we'll let it all play out. Yeah. You're right. We'll take the long con. We'll take the long play here and see how it goes out. So that's something ahead. But Ramona, tonight we have Chris Paul going back with the Rockets to take on the Clippers. Your thought on him going up against his old team?
Well, look, his time in LA is really defined by what they didn't do, right? I mean, I still remember being in the parking lot when, Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan found out he was coming, and they were so excited, and there was this optimism that finally the Clippers were going to break through, and they just didn't, and Chris would be the first one to tell you how disappointing that one was, and I think the fans in LA will embrace him, because he did a lot for the franchise while he was there. But, when I look back at those 6 years, it was all about just unfulfilled potential. Yeah. I mean, that was a team that could have won for years to come, and they just never got out of the first or second round.
Well, we'll see what happens with them tonight. And again, because Ramona said it that way, we're going to be doing this for a long time.
Yes, we are.
About the Cleveland situation with LeBron in L.A. Ramona, thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, boys.
Golic
makes me want to vomit and then punch you square in the face.
And Wingo.
Oh, he's saucy today.
Let's talk to someone who was on the field when it happened, shall we? Let's bring in Kyle Rudolph, Vikings tight end. I get it, Notre Dame, Golick Jr., whatever. Let's talk about the most important thing here. Take us through what went on in your mind. First of all, what was the play call in the huddle, Kyle?
Believe it or not, heaven. So at that point in the game, you just got to give it up to heaven, and it worked out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Really?
The play call is heaven?
Just got to give it up. Well, and you go from the huddle, and Case told all of us, I'm going to give somebody a chance here. I'm not sure which guy it's going to be, but somebody's going to get a chance to make a play. Just go out there and make it, and kind of flooded the sideline, hoping to get the ball out of bounds and have a chance to kick a field goal. And I was the first one to the flat, and after I got to the flat and turned and saw Case throw the ball, I was basically directly down the sideline watching Diggs go up, make the catch, and my initial reaction was that he's going to get tackled and be inbounds. And then I saw him stay on his feet and immediately thought to get out of bounds. And then as he just took off running, I was like, oh, my God, he just scored. And so I just ran down the sideline with him.
I get, and again, the route, you ran the short route, Jarius Wright ran the middle route, and it was Steph who ran the longer route. So I'd imagine you had to think because of the distance you needed, the ball probably wasn't going to come to you.
Correct.
I don't. You probably thought so. So again, as you just mentioned, you had the best view of the whole thing. That to me, Kyle, was the most amazing thing of it. I mean, listen, Marcus Williams is going to feel sick for missing that tackle, but for Diggs to have the wherewithal to realize there was nobody there, because I would have thought he would immediately got out of bounds. Was part of you saying, get out of bounds? What are you doing?
Yeah, immediately. Once he caught it and stayed on his feet, that was the first thing that kind of flashed in my mind. And, then once he kept his balance and was able to take off running, then at that point it was go score. But at first, once he left his feet, went up and made the catch, I was just like, please get out of bounds, find a way to get out of bounds. And, he stayed on his feet, unbelievable body control and balance. Just a great all-around play by Diggsy.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yep.
Kyle Rudolph, the Vikings tight end with us. Okay, so this is the next question I have for you. First of all, shattering the time-space continuum that the play call was heaven.
That's fantastic.
It's probably called
really
the exact
is.
opposite of that in New Orleans right now. But that's a separate issue for another day. So we see everybody running down, and Case is holding his head. He's trying to find someone to hug. Who was the first guy you grabbed and just said, I can't believe this happened?
I ran and never going to catch Stephon, but I ran towards the end zone to try to catch up to him, and he just kind of continued running, took his helmet off, ran a little bit into the tunnel. There was kind of a big scrum of guys there, and then I turned, and I just saw Case with no helmet running down the field, like you said, just looking for somebody to hug. So, we jumped in the air, and then at that point it was just anyone and everyone that you saw, you just ran around and gave them a hug.
Absolutely incredible. We're talking to Kyle Rudolph, tight end for the Vikings, had 5 catches in the game and was on the field for that last play, which was called Heaven, which is really amazing. But we definitely want to have you another time for a longer time. But I'd like to know, at 9:58 of the second quarter, you're up 17-0. At 3:01 of the fourth quarter, you're losing 21-20. What are the two emotions there when that happened?
Well, for us on offense, we felt like.
What will your storyline be in 2018 now that the holiday rush is over? LegalZoom can help you make this a memorable year before all the distractions take hold. Make this the year you finally get serious about launching and running your business. Rest a little easier knowing your family's future is squared away with the right estate plan. LegalZoom has been helping people like you take care of their dreams and responsibilities for more than 16 years. They're not a law firm, but they have the resources to keep you on the right path, including advice from their network of independent attorneys, all at your fingertips. Whether you want to take your business to the next level or take control of your family's future with an estate plan, LegalZoom plugs right into your life so you can take care of the things that matter most. Get off to a strong start in 2018 at LegalZoom.com today and get special savings when you enter Golick in the promo box at checkout. LegalZoom, where life meets legal.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Well, good Monday morning, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Golic and Wingo. Glad you are getting up for your week with us. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And I think, guys, it's safe to say that it's good that it's a holiday for a lot of people in Minnesota, as it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, because I think this would be the least productive work day in the history of the state of Minnesota.
To Geico. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Disclaimer, you will not be transported to the top of the world. In the unlikely event you find yourself at the Arctic Circle, seek shelter from the elements immediately to avoid frostbite and or hypothermia. Geico will not be responsible if you find yourself in a cave or crevasse with a lonely abominable snowman, who in all likelihood will force you to play games including but not limited to Go Fish, charades, Chinese checkers, or his personal favorite, Red Rover, send Yeti on over. Geico is not liable for any damages, either physical or emotional.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.